Am I dreaming, or is this the 10th time we've done this? And thank you all for being here. You represent a really wide range of professionals and parents and advocates and scientists coming from 30 states, 3 foreign countries. We've done this now for a number of years, and we're just grateful that you're here today. We're going to try to make this a very interesting day for you. Our basic purpose here is to increase the awareness of current issues in the field of cognitive disabilities and challenges in technology that affect the daily lives of over 23 million people with cognitive disabilities in the United States. This year we have over 360 registrants from, as I mentioned, 30 states, including Canada, England, and Belgium. In addition, we're pleased to have both the American Network of Community Options and Resources, ANCOR, and the National Council of Community Behavioral Health Care as conference co-sponsors. Renee Pietrangelo, CEO of ANCOR, is participating in the conference along with Laura Galbraith, who is representing the National Council. Both organizations will be hosting our closing network reception later today. We also welcome those of you who participated in the pre-conference workshop yesterday at the University of Colorado Law School on the implications of cloud computing for people with cognitive disabilities, which was sponsored by the Coleman Institute and the University of Colorado Law School. We will have a major session this afternoon, I believe, that will be summarizing the exciting content and outcomes of that event yesterday. That conference, by the way, was keynoted by Bill Coleman, who spoke once again with us on an issue of current concern in cognitive technology and coordinated by our great computer scientist in residence, Clayton Lewis, who also will be speaking today and chairing the summary panel that I referred to a moment ago. Panelists will also include Ann Caldwell, the Chief Research and Innovations Officer from the ARC United States, Michael Waymeyer, the current President of the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. I'd also like to recognize Maggie Nygren, who's sitting up here on one of the front tables, who is the current new Executive Director of the American Association for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Welcome, Maggie, and welcome to your new job. Preston Padden from the CU Law School. See if Preston is here today. He was part of that yesterday. He will be later, no doubt. I'd like to acknowledge at this point a few folks that deserve specific mention, of course, and acknowledgement on the agenda today, and who are here in the room. Of course, our keynote today is going to be Tom Gilhool. His topic, 40 years after the PARC case, is there a right to technology access? He'll be introduced by Sue Swenson, our distinguished keynote speaker. The presentation is going to be grounded on Tom's vast experience as an attorney and disability rights advocate over 4 decades and counting. Tom has served as Chief Counsel of the Public Interest Law Center of Philadelphia, Secretary of Education of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and a professor at the University of Southern California Law School. As a legal champion for children and youth with disabilities, he contributed mightily to the establishment of the Education for Exceptional Children throughout the United States. His leadership established the initial momentum for enacting the 1975 Education for All Handicapped Children's Act and IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. His leadership also advanced the rights for people with developmental disabilities to live in community settings rather than in institutions and nursing homes. Conference speakers will also include David O'Hara with his colleague John Maltby from New York State's Westchester Institute of Human Development, His topic will be accessible telemed and e-health strategies for people with cognitive disabilities. Our afternoon keynote speaker is the esteemed Professor Henry Kautz, an international leader in cognitive technology research and chair of the Department of Computer Science at the University of Rochester, who will address us on technologies to improve the quality of life for people with cognitive disabilities. Also, Elizabeth Lyle, Special Counsel for Innovation in the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau of the FCC, will address us with her colleague Pamela Gregory on the National Broadband Plan and access for people with cognitive disabilities. CU's Kathy Bodine will report on highlights from her current projects in the CU's Rehabilitation Engineering Research Center for the Advancement of Cognitive Technologies, funded by NIDR, which is an agency that's now under the supervision of another one of our esteemed speakers today, Sue Swenson, who is the new Deputy Assistant Secretary of the United States Department of Education, and in a temporary capacity as Acting Director of NIDR. We have over 60 posters this year and exhibits, and they're out in the foyer there, and will be for your enjoyment for virtually the entire day. An opportunity to engage also at lunch with a dozen roundtables on various topics that you have chosen. Actually, I think there are 13 of them now. But first, let me, before we begin, acknowledge some people that are here in the audience, some very special guests, and I'd like to start with the table down here in front with our founding donors, Bill Coleman and Claudia Coleman. And next, Suzanne Turner and her parents, Patty and John. The Institute and its mission were created in large measure because of the Turner family and because of Suzanne and her inspiration to Bill and Claudia. And we thank the Turner family and the Coleman family for all that they've done for our field and for the University of Colorado to get us so engaged. Regent Emerita Pat Hayes is registered. Is Pat here? I'm sure she will be if not. And Pete Steinhauer, I know Pete is here, who is also a Regent Emeritus. Pete, where are you? Yeah, he's hiding in the back row as usual. There he is. Stand up, Pete. Pete is a graduate of the University of Colorado and a lifelong Boulder resident, and has been a tremendous source of support for us on the Coleman Colorado Foundation, and a tremendous support to Enid and I think personally, in regard to our Institute activities. So we thank Pete for being here, and he's also, as I mentioned, was chairman of the Board of Regents and has played a major role in the Institute. Finally, John Bliss, also a member of the Coleman Colorado Foundation that supports the Coleman Institute. John's in the back. Please stand up. Let us see you, John. And we got very fortunate in populating the Coleman Colorado Foundation board, which supports the Coleman Institute, with former folks who were very experienced in the University of Colorado operations, and John was the former vice president for administration of the University of Colorado, as Pete, as I mentioned, was former chairman of the board of Regents of the University of Colorado. So we're glad to have you here today, and we're particularly pleased to have all of you here or who are here for the 10th time. If we had door prizes, you'd definitely get one. Who's actually been to every one of the conferences since Aspen? Bill has. Okay. Well, good. We've got some new folks that are here too. So at this point, let me go into, for the benefit of those of you who have not been to a Coleman conference and have not been also very familiar with the University of Colorado, a very quick slideshow where we're going to show you a bit about the university. When we refer to the University of Colorado, we refer to our 4 campuses. We have campuses at Boulder, we have campuses at Colorado Springs, at at the Anschutz Medical Campus and the Denver campus. I might take a word to expand on the Anschutz Medical Campus for a moment, because it's a campus that has enjoyed explosive growth, certainly in the 9 years that I have been here, remarkable growth. Just before I came here, I saw the Anschutz campus on a mock wooden architectural model in the offices of the then chancellor of the campus when it was down at 9th in Colorado, and it was landlocked by the city of Denver. And there were 250 acres of land owned by the federal government in Aurora that some enterprising leaders of our university managed to convince the federal government ought to be transferred under the Surplus Property Act to the state of Colorado for the benefit of the University of Colorado to develop a new medical campus. And we already had a very big and very substantial and very prominent medical campus as it was at 9th in Colorado. But these leaders of CU at the time and the faculty got together and realized that Colorado was going to grow, the university was going to grow, the needs of the people of Colorado were going to grow in the area of health services and health sciences. Convinced the federal government that that 250 acres should be transferred to the university, whereupon it was. And my first visit to Colorado, James Shore, the then chancellor, showed me a wooden mock model of what the campus would look like. And I can remember looking at that model and just thinking to myself, but not showing my real thoughts, which was, oh yeah, I'll see that, I'm sure. I didn't count on it. Now, as those of you who are from out of town, when you head back to the airport, on your way to the airport, look on the right side, and just before you get to the airport cutoff, look over and you'll see this, what appears to be a city, a small city with tall buildings off to your right. The Anschutz Medical Campus is now breathtaking. Virtually all new buildings except for the Veterans Administration building that Eisenhower recuperated from his heart surgery in the 1950s, which has been remodeled. The rest of the buildings, including Children's Hospital, including the University of Colorado Hospital, including all the research buildings, including literally a complete brand new medical campus has been erected on that spot. And it's just a breathtaking thing to see. And Children's Hospital and the University of Colorado Hospital are already expanding. It's by far the largest hospital in the Rocky Mountain region, and something that we're particularly proud of. So try to get a look at Anschutz if you're here from out of town. The Denver campus, the downtown Denver campus, is an undergraduate and graduate campus and rounds out our 4th campus. We have an esteemed faculty, 41 faculty in the National Academies of Sciences, 4 Nobel Prize winners in molecular biology and physics, 19 Rhodes Scholars and 15 astronauts, 7 MacArthur Genius Grant recipients, and unbelievably $845 million in grants in 2010. Some of that is surplus money, so I'm cheating a little bit. I mean, not surplus money, but stimulus money. But it underscores a characteristic of the University of Colorado that we're proud of on one level, and on another level we accept the reality of it, and that is that what you know here is that if you want to, as a faculty member, initiate, you must seek and obtain external funding, typically federal funding. So the faculty has always been very hungry for resources because the state doesn't provide them. So it's a place where initiative is particularly important. Our mission in the Coleman Institute is to catalyze and integrate advances in science, engineering, and technology to promote the quality of life and independent living of people with cognitive disabilities. When we refer to cognitive disabilities, we're basically talking about people with intellectual disability, disorders such as Alzheimer's, traumatic brain injury, and a group of disorders that lead to the need often for lifelong support, and that in which the individuals are functioning at less than normal intellectual capacity. As I mentioned, there are over 20 million, 22 million people with these conditions, developmental disabilities included, of course, in the United States, and 5 or 6 times that many or 10 times that many in the world today. Not that these conditions aren't discrete entities, they are, and they have unique elements, but All of them require support, cognitive support, to be operating at the highest level possible and to be as independent as possible. And the technologies that are being conceived and developed today can potentially benefit individuals from these particular groups. And one of the things we're trying to do by stressing the grouping of cognitive disabilities as a single unitary idea is to appeal, frankly, to many of the organizations and associations here in the United States and abroad that advocate for and provide services to people with the variety of cognitive disabilities that I just referred to. This makes us bigger and stronger and a more viable social and political force in American society and indeed across the world. It makes people pay more attention to us. So we support research and development funding to CU faculty. We support resources to others as well, but nearly always in partnership with CU faculty. We have a fellowship program, we do the annual conferences, and we do public policy, advocacy, and outreach. 50 of our faculty across the CU campuses have received Coleman Institute grants. 10 grantees have been involved in either patent generation, licensing agreements, and or the creation of new companies. We assisted in convincing the federal government that it was a good idea to have a competition for a National Institute on Disability and Rehabilitation Research funded Rehabilitation Engineering and Research Center. They did have such a competition. We competed. Kathy Bodine is the PI, brought the entity successfully back to the university in its first phase and in 2004, and we competed again in its second phase in 2009, and now it's operating through 2014. For our part in the Coleman Institute, in addition to encouraging the federal government to come up with the idea to do this, we put in $1.6 million to show them that we're indeed committed to it too, so it has substantially increased the resources that they've had to work with. See those poster sessions during the breaks if you get a chance for the Rehabilitation Engineering Research Center. Our first conference was in Aspen in 2001, in which we invited basically national audiences, and we have been promoting the field since that time with an annual conference each year. We have a pre-conference workshop that we've inaugurated as part of our event. We did this year, as I mentioned, the Cloud Computing Pre-Conference, which was held in partnership with the Silicon Flatiron Center for Law, Technology, and Entrepreneurship at the CU School of Law yesterday. And there'll be a post-conference technology summit with Anchor and the National Council for Community Behavioral Health Care that will go on tomorrow. So what started as a more modest event has now evolved into a 3-day event for those of you that really enjoy conferences. We hope you'll come and stay the entire time with us. I want to say that we particularly appreciate the partnership with the University of Colorado Law School. Preston Padden, who will be here today representing the law school, was part of all of that yesterday at the special event that we had at the CU Law School. And there'll be more about that as we go through the program. We want a special thanks to our co-sponsors, ANCOR, and the Network of Community Options and Resources in Developmental Disability Services throughout the United States, and the National Council.